Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Chris, and welcome to the 2016 edition of ManicManiac Predicts, the NFL season. How is everyone doing today? I'm doing quite fine. The NFL season is upon us, and I'm so excited. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for tomorrow. No idea. It's going to be an exciting kickoff. Super Bowl rematches are always fun to watch, and to have a kickoff this entire season is going to be amazing. So, a little bit of a different start that we're going to take here. We're going to start off with a segment I like to call the kickoff topic. So, as I've talked about recently, I want the show to become more than just predictions, and more of something that can be interactive, and less me rambling on and on about which teams are better. With that in mind, I want to open every episode with a conversation topic pertaining to the week before, or just a general NFL topic that pops in my head that I would love to discuss with anyone in the comments down below. And if not, that's okay. I'm all good. So today's topic is quite simple. Who's your favorite team in the NFL and why? You know, we're kicking off the season. Who are you rooting for the most? Is it someone that you've been rooting for the longest time? Is it someone that you just started loving recently that you feel like has a great shot at winning the Super Bowl? You tell me down below. For me, my main team has and always has been the New York Giants. I've been a fan of the team since I was young, not so much for the football, but because they were big blue. Blue was, and still is, my favorite color because they are a New York team. Well, kind of. And I've lived in New York my entire life. I didn't start following football until a few years ago, and it all started with watching Giants and Jets games. And though I'm a Giants fan, my family has always been Jets fans, and together we've always rooted for both teams to succeed. That's why sometimes I end up calling myself a Jets fan, because I'm one with my family. And to this day, we still hope for a Giants-Jets Super Bowl that will probably never happen. The Jets are definitely my number 2 team. I'll go to Jets games and, like I said, be one with the Jets fans. But if they're playing the Giants, I'll always have to stick with Big Blue. Then when I really started following football, I really enjoyed watching the Bills. The one team that's actually in New York. I forgot to put the Jets up here. So, they haven't made the playoffs since the 90s, and they probably will never get over 4 straight Super Bowl losses. I would like to see that the team actually succeed and not be a laughingstock, and that's how I approach being a sports fan in general. I like rooting for underdogs. So besides those 3 teams I've named, you will probably see me root for teams like, I don't know, the Jaguars and Browns, who haven't had a lot of success. So let me know down below who you like and why you like them. Don't care if it's 1 sentence or a 3-page essay. I love hearing about people who love football. And that brings us to our main event. It's time for predictions. Since there has been so much that has happened since we last had a prediction show, I'll be recapping some key points of the team's off-season, as well as what I predict for the game itself. Who do I think will come out on top in Week 1? Let's find out. Starting with the Thursday night kickoff between the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos. Let's start with the reigning Super Bowl champion Broncos. Peyton Manning retired in the offseason, so the Broncos ended up using their first-round pick on Memphis quarterback Paxton Lynch. He has a lot of potential, but the team felt like he wasn't ready to start, so instead they hosted a quarterback battle between Lynch, their 2015 7th-round pick, Trevor Siemian, and Mark Sanchez, who was with the Eagles before he was traded to Denver. Siemian ended up coming in on top and is ready to start Thursday, which I'm actually low-key excited for. Some fresh blood to start for a team coming off a Super Bowl win. And the Broncos don't seem too worried about inexperience at the helm of their offense, and that's because of 2 things: a great wide receiver duo in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and the best defense in the NFL. All of their defensive Pro Bowlers have returned, including DeMarcus Ware, Keith Khalid, Chris Harris Jr., and of course, Super Bowl MVP Von Miller. They lost Malik Jackson and Danny Trevathan in the offseason, but that shouldn't slow them down, the team down. On the Carolina side, not a lot happened in their offseason. The Panthers did lose Josh Norman, but are getting back wide receiver Calvin Benjamin, who went down with a season-ending injury last summer. The Panthers had a great tight end in Greg Olsen and one of the best linebacking duos in the league with Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. And then there's Super Cam. Cam Newton is looking for revenge, and I'm excited to see if he can deliver. Both teams still remain pretty decked, but I'm going to go with the Panthers to win this game. I think that the Panthers can learn from their mistakes in Super Bowl 50 and come back with a plan to dominate the Broncos defense. It makes Simeon regret ever coming off the bench. Joking aside, I do think it'll be a close battle, a low-scoring game, and a great watch. Now on to the first football Sunday matchup of the season, starting with the Atlanta Falcons at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm sorry, that should be reversed. Apologize about that. The Mike Smith revenge game, by the way. He's now the offensive coordinator at the Buccaneers. Tampa is looking to make a leap this year, despite having a first-year head coach at the helm in Dirk Koetter. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Jameis Winston wowed many in his rookie debut, and the sky is the limit to what he can do. Along with the revamped offensive line, running back Doug Martin, and the two veteran receivers in Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson, we could see big numbers on the board from this team. Defensively, Gerald McCoy, Levante David, Quan Alexander, and new acquisitions in Brett Grimes, Robert Ayers, and first-round pick Vernon Hargreaves all have the ability to make this defense one of the best in the NFL, the NFC rather. The Falcons are coming off a season that started out so well and it ended on a rough note, despite their late season victory over the Panthers. Meanwhile, the Falcons have some new offensive starters in center Alex Mack and wide receiver Mohamed Sanu that will surely make Matt Ryan feel better with what he's dealing with. Julio Jones is one of the best wide receivers in the league, and I'm sure he'll continue to excel. And despite a lot of questions on defense, it'll surely look better than last year. Vic Beasley is looking to have a breakout year. Pro Bowler Desmond Trufant is one of the most underrated corners in the league, and recently signed Dwight Freeney will surely have an impact on the team on the field and off, especially on young guys like Keanu Neal, the Falcons' first-round pick. It's going to be a great game to watch. Most divisional rivalry games are fantastic, and after sweeping the Falcons in 2015, I think the Buccaneers, there you go, continue their winning streak against Atlanta, and they come out on top. Alright, next up is the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Tennessee Titans. My heart is broken for this Vikings team. After such high hopes going into the season, Teddy Bridgewater is now out for the year with a completely torn ACL. ACL injuries are hard to come back from, but I hope Bridgewater makes a full recovery. So we're definitely thinking of him right now. It's a bad situation. But things aren't completely lost for the Vikings. They traded for Sam Bradford on Saturday, who had a strong finish in 2015, so hope is not lost for this team. They still have the best running back in the league in Adrian Peterson. They still have an amazing defense led by Harrison Smith, Anthony Barr, and Linval Joseph. They added a great weapon in the draft, Laquan Treadwell, and Stephon Diggs is bound to have a great year. Ultimately, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback for this team. In fact, I believe that Sean Hill might be the starter for this game, but this team is built to succeed. Meanwhile, Tennessee fans have the right to be excited. Running backs DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry look like they're going to be an amazing duo. Pair that with the second-year quarterback and Marcus Mariota, who did great things in his rookie campaign, and one of the best tight ends in the league in Delaney Walker, and you got yourself a formula for success. Well, at least improvement for now. There's still a lot of room for growth in the Titans defense. Jarrell Casey has been the star of the team, and their secondary just got a veteran in Rashad Johnson, who replaces Michael Griffin at safety. But I believe the Vikings will be getting the win on Sunday, because I think the Vikings are the better-built team, no matter who starts at quarterback. And I also believe Minnesota has the better head coach in Mike Zimmer. Moving on to the Browns at the Eagles. The Cleveland Browns, or actually earlier in the offseason, the Eagles gave the Browns a lot of picks to move up to the number 2 spot in the draft to grab Carson Wentz. Now, Wentz will be starting his first NFL game against the team that helped him get to Philly. So, that's fun. Philly underwent a makeover this offseason, firing head coach Chip Kelly for Chiefs offensive coordinator Doug Peterson and getting rid of Bradford, Mark Sanchez, DeMarco Murray, Byron Maxwell, and Kiko Alonso via trades. But they did extend a ton of their great players already on the roster, including Fletcher Cox, Zach Ertz, Malcolm Jenkins, Brett Selleck, and Lane Johnson, even though he may be out 10 games this season with a suspension. They also got a new weapon in Dorial Green-Beckham, who they acquired from the Titans. This team seems like it's having a rebuild year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they still competed for the NFC East, because that's what the Eagles do. Meanwhile, the Browns are definitely rebuilding. Browns cleaned house of all their first-round picks from 2011 through 2014, including releasing Johnny Manziel, sending Barkevious Mingo to the Patriots, and shipping Justin Gilbert to the Steelers in a weird divisional trade. The big news of the offseason was the Browns getting Robert Griffin III, the former starter of the Washington Redskins, who gets to start this Sunday. Josh Gordon will make his return in Week 5, but the Browns have a new weapon in Corey Coleman, their first-round pick. The Browns kept 13 of their 14 draft picks, plus a few undrafted drafted free agents on the roster to make this team the second youngest in the league behind the Rams. With Hugh Jackson as head coach, I expect the Browns to do well in the future. It may not be this year, but the future is bright. As for who wins this game, I expect both quarterbacks, ironically both were taking the second overall in the NFL draft, I expect both quarterbacks to have pretty good games, but I think the Eagles will get the W. Alright, this is moving on to CBS's highlight game of the week. This is going to be Jim Nantz, Phil Simms right here. The Cincinnati Bengals heading to New York to face the Jets. When the schedule was released, I remember tweeting out that I was excited for this matchup because it would be a rematch of a playoff game that happened a few years back. However, I quickly remembered that a few years back meant 2009. The more relevant storyline here was that this would have been a wild card matchup if the Jets didn't lose to the Bills in Week 17 of last year. That still haunts my memories. Let's start with the Bengals offseason. And unfortunately, they lost more than they gained. Hugh Jackson has gone to the Browns. Marvin Jones is with Detroit. Mohamed Sanu is with Atlanta. They lost Reggie Nelson, Leon Hall, and Andre Smith. They probably won't have either back till a few weeks in because of the stupid Pro Bowl. And by the way, that really sucks that he injured himself during the Pro Bowl. It's the worst way to not participate in the season is because of a useless game that you get injured in. Kind of like the preseason. Just saying. I wouldn't paint this as a great offseason, but that doesn't mean they aren't still a good team. Dalton will hopefully be able to keep his play at a high level. They still have A.J. Green, one of the best wide receivers in the league. Their defense will still be tough with Atkins and Dunlap still on the defensive line, and Vontae Burfict being a maniac on the field. Even though they lost him for, I think it's 4 games. This team will be fine, and will probably still contend for the playoffs. The Jets, meanwhile, are looking to continue the momentum from late last season despite their disastrous finish in Buffalo. They got rid of Cromartie, Amaro, and Milner, and Chris Ivory signed with the Jaguars. The Brickashaw Ferguson, longtime starter at tackle, retired, and the team acquired Ryan Cloudy to fill in his spot. Matt Forte joined the Jets, looking to recapture some magic he had in Chicago, and of course, they got Fitzpatrick back, which was the worst holdout ever. Now with him back, the Jets wide receiver duo in Brendan Marshall and Eric Decker remain happy, as both had great years with Fitz at the helm. The Jets defense will continue to flourish with Wilkerson, Richardson, and Williams all back. Revis returns and hopes to still be one of the best corners in the league. And linebacker Darron Lee, the Jets' first-round draft pick, looks to leave an impact on the linebacking core which hasn't really been that great the past few years. This looks to be a fun game, lots on the line, and I think I'm going to give this to the Jets. Yes, I call the upset right here. But it will be very close. It'll be a close game, but I think the Jets right now seem in the better situation. To the Superdome as the Oakland Raiders take on the New Orleans Saints. The hype for the Raiders is real. Derek Carr coming off of a great second year, and he still has room for growth. Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree were huge parts of what made the Raiders so fun to watch last year, and they are both back this year. Now, Andre Washington is gaining a lot of hype and could compete for Latavius Murray for extra snaps. Their biggest offensive addition was Kelechi Osemele, who will boost their offensive lineup. Meanwhile, defensive end Khalil Mack, one of the best players in the league, is now joined by a lot of new teammates. Reggie Nelson, Bruce Irvin, Sean Smith, and Carl Joseph, the rookie first-rounder. Though Charles Woodson is gone, this team will be fine without him, and they will make a huge leap this year. Huge leap. Meanwhile, the Saints are looking to rebound from an embarrassing season where they had the second worst defense in the league. The team has a star in Cameron Jordan. Rookie Sheldon Rankins will look to contribute once he gets back from injury. Stephon Anthony is looking to make a leap this year. Defensive free agents include Nick Fairley, James Laurinaitis, Cortland Finnegan, and the return of Roman Harper. Meanwhile, on offense, Drew Brees continues to be a fantastic quarterback and will look to Brendan Cooks, Willie Snead, acquisition Kobe Fleener, and rookie Michael Thomas to throw to. Mark Ingram will also be receiving passes and also running the football in his return to the field. Interesting note, Tim Hightower is higher on the depth chart than CJ Spiller. I don't know why that is. But anyways, Raiders win this one easily. It's going to be another rough year for the Saints. Alright. Now let's move on to this last remaining team in Missouri, the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the San Diego Chargers. What a weird offseason for the Chargers. The team almost fled San Diego to head to LA, but the NFL moved the Rams ahead of them. Now they have the rest of this year to figure out their stadium situation in hopes that San Diego can keep their team. After that, they picked Joey Bosa with the third overall pick, and he decided to hold out on the team till late August. He didn't even play in any preseason games. Hopefully the Chargers don't regret picking him instead of an offensive lineman. With that being said, this defense may be an underrated gem. The Brandon Flowers and Jason Verrett could be a great cornerback duo. Monte Teo and second-year starter Denzel Perryman have been pretty okay at inside linebackers. The addition of Brandon Mebane on the line is fantastic, in my opinion, to get those belly rolls going. And as for the offense, it'll always be pretty good with Phillip Rivers at quarterback. And now, along with Allen and Gage, Rivers has a new weapon in former Brown, Travis Benjamin. And hopefully the running game will be better this year with Melvin Gordon, with help from rookie fullback and fellow Badger, Derek Watt. As for the Chiefs, no major change for this team as Sean Smith may be their only major offseason loss. Jamal Charles looks to make his triumphant return after being out for almost 11 months. Now, he may be sitting week 1. We don't know for sure. I think that's what Andy Reid alluded to. So Jamal Charles might be out, but I don't think that'll be a huge loss for them. Alex Smith and a deep offense are hoping to continue the momentum set in the later part of 2015. And though their defense is expected to continue to do well, the team may be without star linebacker Justin Houston for a majority, if not the entirety, of the season. However, this team is still expected to do very well and is eyeing the AFC West title. I always enjoy divisional matchups, as I said earlier, but I think this one's going to be a blowout. Despite having the better quarterback, I think the Chargers, it's going to be a bad day for them. So, moving on. Welcome home, Tyrod Taylor, who makes his return to Baltimore as the Buffalo Bills take on the Ravens. The Bills are looking to make the leap on offense with the return of Taylor, LaShawn McCoy, Sammy Watkins, and Charles Clay. The offensive line is better than it has ever been. The problems lie on defense. It seems like such a reversal from 2014, right? They had so many offensive struggles, but their defense was fantastic. It's complete opposite now. Marcel Darius, their best defensive lineman, will be out for 4 weeks due to a suspension. They lost draft picks Shaq Lawson and Reggie Ragland to injury for a little while, and there's still no concrete answers at linebacker now. The only major bright spot for the team right now is the back end, with Gilmore and Darby at cornerback. And as for the Ravens, we will see the return of Joe Flacco, Steve Smith Sr., and Terrell Suggs from injury. Terrence West takes over at starting running back, though it'll likely be running back by committee with him, Forsett, and draft pick Kenneth Dixon. Brashad Perryman is looking to make his NFL debut after a lost 2015 season. Overall, this team is pretty good on both sides of the ball and will likely compete for the AFC North title. Between the two teams, I feel like the Ravens are more consistent on both sides of the ball and will win this game. Alright, to the home of Super Bowl 51 as the Houston Texans host the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bells. The Bears could have a pretty good season despite showing no life on offense during the preseason. Jay Cutler has a lot of weapons around him, but he just needs to get them the ball. The offensive line has issues, but it'll be great seeing Kyle Long and newly signed guard Josh Sinnen working together to protect Cutler. Matt Forte and Martellus Bennett are out, so Jeremy Langford and Zach Miller have to step in. Both have a lot of potential to do great. As for defense, lots of new additions include rookie Leonard Floyd and former Bronco Danny Trevathan. Their linebacking core is the best part of their defense, but they will be without Pernell McPhee for the first 6 weeks or so. Eddie Goldman is an underrated gem, that word again, at nose tackle. Expect him to do well. The Texans have a new starting quarterback, Brock Osweiler, who had his first career start late last season against, you guessed it, the Chicago Bears. Now in his premiere as a Texan, Osweiler will try to beat the Bears for the second time in his career. The team has a new running back in Lamar Miller, who was great with the Dolphins. The wide receiver core is deep with Pro Bowler DeAndre Hopkins and veteran Jalen Strong, leading rookies Will Fuller and Braxton Miller. But of course, the most important part of the Texans is defensive monster J.J. Watt. He returns from surgery in August to play out of the gate in Week 1. That's insanity, but hardly surprising when it comes to Watt. The defense will flourish with Watt and many other great players. And I'm going to give the Texans the win here. This will be their 100th win ever in franchise history, so that's a big achievement. I don't think it'll be very close in this game. That's not because the Bears are bad, but the Texans are going to be contending this year. Keep that in mind. Alright. Is it weird that this is my favorite Week 1 matchup here? I actually am really excited about this. The Jacksonville Jaguars face the Green Bay Packers right out of the gate. The Packers are looking to have a much better season this year. Jordan Nelson is back, Eddie Lacy is thin, and Jared Cook is now with the Cheeseheads. And Aaron Rodgers is still the best quarterback in the league, at least in my opinion. And on defense, along with the addition of rookie Kenny Clark, we have Mike Daniels, Clay Matthews, Julius Peppers, Damaris Randall, Shams Shields, Hunter Clinton Dix. I don't know how this team can't compete, and I'm very excited to see what they can do. You may think this is going to be a blowout, but not so fast. The Jaguars are better than you think. Blake Bortles has improved immensely, and I expect him to be better this year, especially with Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, and tight end Julius Thomas are at their best. The O-line has improved, and they now have Chris Ivory to complement TJ Yeldon. On defense, Malik Jackson has come over from the Broncos. Draft pick Jalen Ramsey and Miles Jack are expected to be huge contributors, considering they were two of the best defensive players in the draft. And Dante Fowler Jr. will make his debut after being out all of last season. This team may actually win the AFC South. You never know. With that being said, it'll be a rough start in Jacksonville, and they lose a close one to the overpowered Packers. Alright, now on for the late afternoon games, starting with the Miami Dolphins taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Goodbye, Marshawn Lynch. On Super Bowl Sunday, Lynch suddenly retired from the league, and now the Seahawks will be left with Thomas Rawls, who has shown in Lynch's absence he can compete. Christine Michael had a good preseason, so he could compete for snaps as well. Russell Wilson is looking to have a great year despite having Swiss cheese for his offensive line. Jimmy Graham will make his return to the field, possibly by this Sunday. The real stars of the team lie on the defense, of course. They lost Bruce Irvin, but they still have a great secondary group in Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Cam Chancellor. Legion of Boom. The defensive line is deep with Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, and rookie Jerron Reed. I don't know if this is as complete of a team as others have been saying, but they will absolutely compete for a title. Meanwhile, the Dolphins have Adam Gase leading the charge at head coach. Ken Tannehill improved like many other quarterbacks under Gase have. Arian Foster, Texans legend, is starting running back, with Jay Ajayi competing with him. Jarvis Landry is one of the great young receivers in the league, so he will do wonders for the offense. And on defense, after a lackluster year, we could see a giant leap for this team. The addition of Mario Williams, Byron Maxwell, and Kiko Alonso helps big time, but the real stars are in Ndamukong Suh and Cameron Wake if he returns from injury well. It'll be great to see all these guys work together to make this defense work wonders. My pick to win, however, will be the Seahawks, as they are the better team at all phases, with the exception of offensive line. Yeah, it's a mess. Alright, Fox's America's Game of the Week game. The New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. And side note, isn't it kind of frustrating that almost every year these two teams face each other? Well, let's try something new for next year, okay? We can hold off on the rivalry for a little longer. Anyways, the Cowboys will be without Romo again for about the first half of the season. In his place, Dak Prescott. Can the rookie get the job done, even with Dez Bryant and Jason Witten? I mean, yes, but they could work, but I'm not too sure. But fellow rookie Ezekiel Elliott, I think he can get the job done. He was the best running back in the draft, and he will be running behind the best offensive line in the league. I think the Cowboys are going to be in a better position this year than they were last year without Romo. That defense has a lot of questions, though, so I'm not too sure. The Giants, meanwhile, spent a ton of money on defense to make it all over after it was the worst unit in the league last year. That defensive line with Vernon, Pierre-Paul, and Harrison could be one of the best units out there. However, the linebacking core is kind of non-existent, and the secondary has a lot of young people on it. This defense will be better than last year. The question is, how much better? Eli Manning, meanwhile, will spend his first year without Tom Coughlin as his head coach. New Giants head coach Ben McAdoo was his offensive coordinator last year, though, and Manning put up a lot of numbers under his system. And while there's still plenty of questions at running back and offensive line, the wide receiver core with Odell Beckham, Victor Cruz, and rookie Sterling Shepard could be hard to stop this year if all three play at a high level. I'm so excited for Victor Cruz to be back. That is so exciting. Back from injury, back from a year and a half of I would say 2 years of absence. Despite all their troubles, I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win this game. I think the Cowboys are good enough on offense for them to deal with the Giants' defense, and I think the Giants will experience some growing pains in the beginning, but I think they're going to get better over the course of the season. This NFC East is going to be super, super competitive. I'm looking forward to it. All right. Let's move on to the Detroit Lions heading to Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the Indianapolis Colts. Two teams that went from playoffs to nobodies. Calvin Johnson retired this offseason, and no one is going to fill those shoes, but a combination of Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and Aquan Bolden will help. Matthew Stafford finished the season strong under offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter, and that will carry over, and will that carry over to this season, I don't know for sure. And the Lions defense doesn't seem like one of the best in the league, but there are players that can make it better. Ezekiel Ansah had a great year last year at defensive end, while safety Clover Quinn had a drop-off year but looks to rebound. DeAndre Levy is looking to return this season and be a huge threat at linebacker. And for the Colts, Andrew Luck will return, and the hope is he'll be one of the best in the league again. The offensive line improved big time, and the weapons around Luck are deep, from T.Y. Hilton to Philip Dorsett to Dante Moncrief. Frank Gore remains at running back and hopes to have a better season than last. The problem is the defense, essentially. Vontae Davis is expected to be out for a month. Arthur Jones is suspended for 4 games, so about the same time. Mike Adams and Robert Mathis are the only stars on that defense, and I don't know if that will be enough. I don't want to call Arthur Jones a star, but that still, losing that depth, it's bad. With all that said, I have more faith in the Colts right now than I do the Lions, because there are more depth and power on the Colts overall than there are on the Lions. So Colts are my pick to win. Alright, let's start out with Sunday Night Football. It's the New England Patriots against the Arizona Cardinals. This match would have been a ton better with Tom Brady, but alas, here we are. I'm so glad that after 4 more games for the Patriots, that we could finally say goodbye to freaking Deflategate. Oh my god. Jimmy Garoppolo is starting at quarterback, but that doesn't mean the Patriots are going to lose games because of it. This team is built to win. The defense may be one of the best units in the league this year. Just to name a few, there's Jamie Collins, there's Dante Hightower, Devin McCourty, just a few good names. And the offense got so much better with Martellus Bennett coming in. Just him alone. Him and Gronkowski are going to be an unstoppable duo. And though the offensive line still has questions, yeah, it doesn't really matter because the Patriots ended up working with it anyway. This team will continue to compete until we all cease to exist, let's face it. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are coming off an amazing season, but are looking to make it even more amazing with a Super Bowl win. Carson Palmer's back with all his offensive friends, Larry Fitzgerald, David Johnson. I could list people all day long. The O-line has improved a bit, but the biggest improvement was on the defensive line, where Chandler Jones was traded here from the Pats. He adds to a pass rush that has not really had a true identity, even though Calais Campbell did a good job with filling that in. Tyrann Mathieu will make his big return and will team up with Patrick Peterson and the rest of this secondary to make this defense skyrocket. I'm extremely excited for this matchup. Again, despite Tom Brady not being in it, he does make games so much more fun to watch, even if you're rooting against him. And I think Cardinals will take this win. And I think that's really just because Brady's not there. But I actually think the Cardinals are going to win in overtime. I think this is going to be a very, very close battle. On to Sunday Night Football. Or, sorry, Monday Night Football. We just did it, Sunday Night Football, damn it. So this is going to be a doubleheader. We're starting out with the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Washington Redskins. The big addition for the Redskins this offseason, we talked about it earlier, was Josh Norman, one of the best corners in the league last year. Now he and D'Angelo Hall will team up in the secondary to improve a pass defense that ranked number 25th in the league. On the offensive side, Kirk Cousins will be starting his second year as Redskins quarterback, and he's in for a good year. Deshaun Jackson, Jordan Reed, Pierre Garçon, and now rookie Josh Doctson makes up the Redskins receiving group, so you'll know this will be a good offense, especially if Matt Jones makes the leap at running back. The Steelers will be without Le'Veon Bell for 3 games and Martavius Bryant for the season, but this offense will be fine. D'Angelo Williams did well in Bell's absence, and Big Ben will still be slinging touchdowns to Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the league, and anyone else that steps up. Defensively, the secondary still has questions despite the presence of William Gay and rookie Artie Burns. What will help is that a linebacking core that runs deep and a defensive line that is led by Cameron Hayward. I think both teams are all around are really competitive and really complete, but I'm going to call the upset. The Redskins will win it. Alright, last game, the second Monday Night Football game. The San Francisco 49ers hosting the rebirth of the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are back in Southern California, much to the dismay of those in St. Louis. Shout out to all you football fans in St. Louis. I've heard Kansas City is a pretty good team to root for. Todd Gurley is expected to have a huge season as he will try to carry the team while Case Keenum is at quarterback and Jared Goff struggles to be a second-string quarterback, never mind a first-string. Despite the problems on offense, the defense seems to be just fine. Aaron Donald is one of the best young defensive threats in the league. Him, Robert Quinn, and William Hayes make this defensive line one of the most feared in the NFL. Tremaine Johnson is now the main quarterback on the team and will help lead a secondary that has some growing up to do. This team is young, but it can flourish with time. Meanwhile, what a mess in San Francisco. I don't want to throw my hat into the ring regarding Colin Kaepernick's protest, but in addition to the on-field problems, you now have to worry about a bitter police union not showing up to help protect the team and their fans. It's just the tip of the iceberg that was the 49ers offseason. They got a new head coach in Chip Kelly, but lost some key players in Anquan Bolden and Alex Boone. This offense just doesn't seem to have an identity. Blaine Gabbert is not going to be a long-term answer. Carlos Hyde has a strong future but hasn't shown it yet. Torrey Smith is pretty good, but who's behind him? Jeremy Curley, Rod Streeter? It's tough to watch, but I mean, at least their offensive line is good. The defense is deep as well, so this team can win some games this year, but are far from competing anytime soon. Anyways, the Rams will win this game and get the first win in the Los Angeles Rams era. So that was a lot. that was a lot of stuff. I believe I covered everything. But now it is time to move on to playoff predictions. Yes, before every single year begins, I love to give my playoff predictions. So I think the Packers and Patriots will be the #1 seeds going into playoffs. On the NFC side, I have the Cardinals, Panthers, and Redskins in that order, winning their divisions. Seahawks will come close to winning the NFC West, like they did this past year, but will be the #5 seed. And I hate to be a homer here, but I actually picked the Giants as the #6 seed because this roster can do great things, and they have a very easy schedule. So I know that the easiness and the hardness of a schedule doesn't really matter once the season actually gets underway, but just keep that in mind. I do think the Giants are a deep enough roster where they can compete despite their many struggles. But with that being said, 4 NFC teams that will also compete alongside these 6 are the Vikings, the Buccaneers, the Cowboys, and the Bears. Keep all those teams in mind. On the AFC side, I have the Steelers, the Chiefs, and Texans in that order winning their divisions, with the Raiders at #5 and the Ravens at #6. Yes, I know, I left out the Super Bowl champions. I don't know if they're going to be able to compete. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to do what they did in 2 years. 2 years in a row, especially with competition up in with the AFC East or AFC West rather. Like, they're going to compete. They're absolutely going to be one of the teams that are going to try to make it to the playoffs. I just don't know that they're going to be able to win the entire thing or even win the AFC West, because I think the Chiefs have gone better and I think the Raiders have gone much better as well. The Broncos are on my list of teams that will continue to compete for the playoffs, including the Bengals, the Colts, the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Dolphins. So keep all those teams in mind before we get started here with the season. But let's focus on these teams and how the playoffs will play out if they were just like this. All right, so we start out with the Panthers against the Giants, and I would easily have the Panthers win over the Giants. I had to find, yeah, there you go. Yeah, Panthers are easily going to win that. Then we have the Seahawks at the Redskins. You know, this is a tough decision to make, but I would say the Seahawks are the ones that would win that. And then over on the AFC side, you have the Chiefs hosting the Ravens. I would give that to the Chiefs. So let me just prove that. There you go. And as for the Raiders at the Texans, I think this would end up being an upset, but I would give the Raiders the win. So there you go. And then we have the divisional round. I'll say the Packers get their win, their playoff revenge on the Seahawks. And I'll say the Panthers, who went to the Super Bowl this year, they end up losing to the Cardinals. So, Packers-Cardinals NFC Championship game. Yay. They're always fun in the playoffs to watch. And then as for over here, I would give the win between the Patriots and the Raiders. I think this is the first time they met in the playoffs since the Tuck rule. So that would be fun. But no, I'm gonna give this one to the Patriots. The Patriots are gonna win that one. And between the Steelers and the Chiefs, I'll call another upset. Chiefs win. So Chiefs and Patriots, a surprise AFC Championship, will be facing up against the Packers and the Cardinals. Well, I'm sorry. The Packers and the Cardinals are facing each other. The Patriots and Chiefs are facing each other. So between those two, I would say the Patriots probably win over the Chiefs. And this one's tough. I think this could be a really, really good game, but I'm going to give it to the Cardinals. Cardinals and Patriots. The Week 1 matchup turns into a Super Bowl 51 matchup. And between these two teams, I'm going to give it to the Cardinals. They finally get their win. When the Super Bowl turns red, the red team must win. Alright, so that's my playoff predictions. Cardinals, Patriots are going to be in the Super Bowl. Cardinals win. So that's how I know that might be alongside many other predictions out there, but I feel pretty confident that the Cardinals can get it done this year if they can all stay healthy. That's the most important part. All right, few last minute notes here. I have some guarantees. I'm gonna guarantee you this: the Browns, the Niners, the Chargers, and Titans. I'm sorry to all you fan bases out there. I just don't think that any of these teams will end up making it to the playoffs this year. I just don't see it happening. I think they all have their struggles that they have to deal with. I think if there's any one of these four that can make the playoffs, I think it can be the Titans. Chargers a close second. I think that these guys are all in tough divisions to get to the top, and just tough and obviously both conferences are going to be filled with teams that are more competitive than these four. So I think that none of these teams are going to make the playoffs. I'll guarantee you that. Guarantee number 2, though, on the lighter note, these 4 teams will make the playoffs no matter what. I guarantee you that. They're all 4 of these teams will make it. Whether they are a wild card team or they win the division, these guys will make it. I'd be shocked, I tell you, if one of these teams does not make the playoffs. All right. We got bold predictions now. Bolder than what I've just been doing. In fact, these first 2 bold predictions I wouldn't say are extremely bold, but just bear with me. Starting out with RG3, Robert Griffin III, now the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I say will have more touchdowns over the course of this season than Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. More touchdowns in general. So that's not really too much of a bold prediction because you have to also include rushing touchdowns. I don't know if Robert Griffin III will be too much of a rusher. We'll see how much he runs in for touchdowns, but I think that he's going to have more touchdowns than Ben Roethlisberger. Bold prediction right there. Now, this one's not as much of a bold prediction. In fact, this might actually happen, but I don't know. Especially with the events of the past few days, who knows? But the Broncos and the Rams will at one point start their rookie quarterbacks. Paxton Lynch and Jared Goff will start is the key word here, will start a game this year. The reason why this is a bold prediction, because yes, Paxton Lynch is number 2, might be destined at some point to make a start, but Jared Goff is still sitting at number 3 on the quarterback depth chart. I mean, there's a good chance that he could just jump right up to number 1 if Case Keenum does badly, but man, he's been struggling, so who knows? I think that's a bold prediction that both of them will make a start this year. But this is the boldest of my predictions here, and it goes to the Oakland Raiders. I already gave my picks, my actual playoff picks, but my bold prediction is that the Oakland Raiders will win Super Bowl 51. Boom! Put it down there. I said it. The Raiders will win it all. And that, to me, is insane at the same time. But, you know, if I'm right, then I can gloat about it, right? I don't like gloating, don't worry. Alright, so, anyways, that's my bold prediction. Those are all my predictions for this season. And we are 44 minutes in. That was a lot. So, as you guys could tell while I was reading all that, by the way, I was reading that off a script that I wrote up prior to filming this, because I felt like there's times where I go off on tangents, as I've said earlier in the episode. So I felt like it was good to write up an entire script to read off of and be able to go through it well. I think I did pretty okay. I think there's a few times that I stuttered, but that's just the way I speak, so that's alright. I hope you guys enjoyed. I don't know if I'm going to be doing this every week where I write up a script, because I think it just took up a lot of my time, but I think there'll be less to write about, because this time I had to write about every single off-season edition that happened. So, I'm sure there was something that I left out too. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week when we predict week 2. I hope you guys enjoy some NFL games this weekend. Bye-bye.